My parents call me the robot, while I keep thousands of people safe every day. Now they gave my sister keys to my apartment without telling me. I never thought I'd be posting here. I've lurked for years, reading stories about family drama and thinking, at least my situation isn't that bad. I was wrong. I've been making excuses for my family my entire life, and yesterday something happened that finally broke me. I'm 29M, and I work as an air traffic controller at a major metropolitan airport. For those who don't know what that means, I'm the person who makes sure planes don't crash into each other. I coordinate takeoffs, landings, and ground movements. I monitor weather systems, communicate with pilots, and make split-second decisions that affect hundreds of lives at a time. On my busiest shifts, I'm responsible for the safety of anywhere from 15,000 to 30,000 passengers depending on traffic volume. I love my job. I worked incredibly hard to get here. The training program has something like a 60% washout rate. I spent years studying, testing, practicing in simulators, and working my way up from smaller facilities. The stress is immense, but the satisfaction of knowing that every flight I handle lands safely is something I can't describe. My sister Megan is 27F. She works as a florist. She arranges flowers for weddings and events. I have nothing against florists. It's legitimate work, and she seems to enjoy it. But to hear my parents talk about it, you'd think she was curing cancer while I was spending my days playing video games. For as long as I can remember, my parents, 55M and 53F, have compared us. And somehow, despite every objective measure suggesting otherwise, I've always come up short in their eyes. Megan brings beauty to people's lives. She makes their special days magical. Marcus just sits in a dark room staring at screens all day. Megan connects with people. She understands emotions and art. Marcus is like a robot. Cold. Technical. Where did we go wrong with him? That's what they call me. The robot. They've called me that since I was a teenager when I got interested in aviation and started spending hours studying flight paths and reading technical manuals. While Megan was going to parties and making friends, I was being weird and obsessing over numbers. My parents have always favored Megan, but I told myself it didn't matter. I built a good life. I have a nice apartment, good savings, colleagues who respect me, and work that actually matters. Who cares if my parents don't understand what I do? But something happened yesterday that I can't ignore. I work overnight shifts. The schedule rotates, but lately I've been doing a lot of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. blocks. It's brutal, but the night differential pay is good, and honestly, I prefer the relative quiet of overnight operations. I come home exhausted, sleep during the day, and do it again. Yesterday morning, I came home at 6:30 a.m. after handling a particularly stressful shift. There had been a medical emergency on an inbound flight, and we had to coordinate an expedited approach while managing a dozen other aircraft in the pattern. My supervisor told me I handled it perfectly. The paramedics were waiting when the plane touched down, and the passenger was rushed to the hospital in time. They're expected to make a full recovery. I was drained but proud. I just wanted to shower and collapse into bed. I unlocked my door, walked in, and froze. Someone was in my apartment. For a terrifying second, I thought I was being robbed. Then I saw my sister Megan walking out of my bedroom in her pajamas. "Oh, you're home," she said, like this was completely normal. "Mom said you wouldn't be back until later." I couldn't speak. I just stared at her. Then I noticed the changes to my apartment. Her stuff was everywhere. Boxes in my living room. Her clothes draped over my furniture. A vase of flowers on my kitchen counter. What the hell is going on? I finally managed. She sighed like I was being dramatic. "I moved in. Didn't Mom and Dad tell you?"
No.
No, they hadn't told me. I called my mother immediately. She picked up on the third ring, sounding annoyed that I was calling so early. "Marcus, why are you being so difficult?" Megan needed a place to stay. Her landlord is renovating her building and she had to move out for a few months. "And nobody thought to ask me?" "Don't raise your voice at me. We knew you'd say no. You're always so selfish with your space. That apartment is half empty anyway. You're never there because of your strange hours." I tried to explain that I work nights, that I need to sleep during the day, that having someone else in my space would destroy my ability to function at a job where people's lives depend on me being alert and focused. Her response: "This is exactly why we call you the robot. Megan is your sister. Family helps family. But all you care about is your precious routine." I asked how Megan even got into my apartment. "We had a copy of your key made last time you visited. We thought it might be useful in an emergency." They secretly copied my apartment key. My own parents went behind my back, made a copy of my key, and then gave it to my sister so she could move into my apartment without my knowledge or consent. When I confronted Megan about this, she just shrugged. It's not a big deal. The place was just sitting empty while you were at work. Someone warm should use that cold space. Cold? Just like me, apparently. I told her she needed to leave. She refused. She said our parents had already paid her deposit on her apartment and couldn't get it back, so she couldn't afford to stay anywhere else. When I called my dad, he was even worse than my mom. He said I was being heartless, and that I needed to learn what really matters in life. He said my job wasn't that important, that computers do most of the work anyway, and that if I can't help my own sister, then they failed as parents. I hung up on him. I've been sitting in a coffee shop for 3 hours now because I can't go home to sleep in my own bedroom. My sister is in there. She changed the sheets to her own. She moved my things into the hall closet. I don't know what to do. I'm supposed to work again tonight. I've been awake for over 22 hours. I'm responsible for hundreds of flights tonight, thousands of lives, and I can't even close my eyes because my family decided I don't deserve basic respect. They call me the robot because I'm logical and analytical. But robots don't feel betrayed. Robots don't feel worthless. Robots don't spend their coffee getting cold while they cry in public. I just wanted to be enough for them. I just wanted them to be proud of something I did. Instead, they violated my privacy, my home, my trust, and they did it to help someone who brings beauty while I apparently bring nothing. I don't know if I'm looking for advice or just needed to vent. Thank you to anyone who read this far. Edit. Thank you for all the responses. I'm overwhelmed. Several people are telling me to call the police and have my sister removed for trespassing. Others are telling me to change my locks immediately. I have some things to think about. I promise I'll update after I figure out what to do. Update 1 to 48 hours later. First, I need to thank everyone who reached out after my original post. I received hundreds of messages, and while I couldn't respond to all of them, I read every single one. For those who told me my job matters, that I matter, that I'm not a robot just because I think logically, thank you. You have no idea how much that meant to me. Now for the update. A lot has happened. After posting, I took some of the advice I received. I called my HR department and explained that I was having a family emergency that might affect my sleep schedule. My supervisor is a former controller who now handles scheduling, and he was incredibly understanding. He pulled some strings and got someone to cover my shift that night so I could deal with the situation. Then I went home. Megan was sitting on my couch watching reality TV like she owned the place. When I told her, calmly and clearly, that she needed to pack her things and leave within the next 2 hours, she laughed at me. Or what? You'll call the cops? Don't be ridiculous. Mom and Dad gave me permission to be here. This is my apartment. My lease. My name. They have no authority to give permission for anything. She rolled her eyes. This is why nobody likes you, Marcus. You're so rigid. It's an apartment. I'm not hurting anyone by being here. I told her I was changing the locks within the hour and that if she wasn't gone by then, I would be filing a police report. She called my bluff. Or rather, she thought she was calling my bluff. I called a locksmith. He arrived in 40 minutes. While he was working on the door, Megan realized I wasn't kidding and started frantically calling our parents. What followed was the most intense phone call of my life. My mother and father were both on speaker, screaming at me. My father called me every name in the book. My mother said I was dead to her if I went through with this. They said I was tearing the family apart. I told them I wasn't the one who broke into someone's home. It's not breaking in, we had a key. A key you made without my permission and gave to someone without my knowledge. That's still illegal entry. My father's response, you think you're so smart with your technical job and your big words. But you're just a glorified traffic cop. You sit in a room and watch little dots move around. Megan creates joy. She makes people happy. What do you do? I hung up. The locksmith finished. I handed Megan a 30-minute warning. She could take her things and leave voluntarily, or I would call the police and have her removed for trespassing. She left. But not before telling me I was ruining her life, that she had nowhere to go, that I was the worst brother in the world. She also told me that our parents were going to make me pay for this. After she left, I documented everything. I took photos of how she'd rearranged my space. I saved all the text messages from my parents. I filed a report with the police about the unauthorized key duplication and entry into my residence. The officer I spoke to was actually pretty sympathetic. He said what my parents did was problematic and that I was within my rights to pursue charges if I wanted. I told him I'd think about it. For the first time in 2 days, I slept in my own bed. 8 beautiful hours. Then I went back to work. I handled 47 flights without a single incident. Every single one of those passengers landed safely because I was alert, focused, and doing my job. Not because computers did the work. Because I did. But this story isn't over. My parents have apparently decided that if I won't comply willingly, they'll force the issue. My mother left me a voicemail saying they've hired a lawyer to explore their options. My father sent a text saying I've chosen to be an only child, and that he hopes I'm happy with that choice. And Megan, she's been posting on social media about how her brother threw her out on the street, and how she's homeless because of his cruelty. She's not homeless, by the way. She's staying at a friend's house. But the sympathy posts are getting hundreds of likes from people who don't know the full story. I've been advised by several people here to consult with a lawyer myself. I have an appointment tomorrow. I'm going to ask about protective orders, civil remedies for the unauthorized key copying, and what my options are if my family continues to harass me. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to come home and sleep. Update 2, 1 week later. I met with a lawyer. Her name is Sandra, and she's exactly the kind of person you want in your corner. Sharp, experienced, and absolutely unafraid of bullies. She reviewed all my documentation and told me I had a very strong case. The key situation was particularly damaging for my parents. In our state, making an unauthorized copy of someone's key and using it to enter their residence can constitute criminal trespass, even if no force was used. The fact that my parents then provided that key to a third party, Megan, to enter and occupy my residence without my knowledge makes it even worse. Sandra recommended we pursue a civil case rather than criminal charges. Criminal cases take time and give you no financial recovery, she explained. A civil suit lets you seek damages for the violation of your privacy, the emotional distress, and any tangible costs you incurred. I asked her what kind of damages we were talking about. Based on comparable cases in this jurisdiction, with documented emotional distress affecting your work in a high-stakes profession, unauthorized entry, and the ongoing harassment, we could reasonably claim between $50,000 and $100,000. I felt sick. I didn't want to sue my parents. Despite everything, they're still the people who raised me. But then Sandra asked me something that changed my perspective. If a stranger had done this to you, copied your key without permission, let themselves into your home, moved in while you were at work, then screamed at you when you objected, would you hesitate to sue? No. I wouldn't. Then why should family get a free pass to treat you worse than a stranger? I authorized her to send a demand letter. We're seeking $72,000 in damages, $50,000 for the privacy violation and emotional distress, $12,000 for lost wages from the shifts I had to miss while dealing with this mess, and $10,000 for the costs of enhanced security measures I've had to implement, new locks, a security camera system, and consultation fees. The letter gave them 30 days to respond. In the meantime, something else happened that I need to share. Megan's social media campaign backfired spectacularly. Someone who saw her posts about being thrown out apparently knew someone who knew someone at one of the wedding venues she works with regularly. The venue manager reached out to verify the story and discovered a very different version of events. When they heard that Megan had entered her brother's apartment using an unauthorized key and refused to leave, they were disturbed. When they heard that the brother in question is an air traffic controller who works nights and needs to sleep during the day, and that Megan's presence potentially endangered thousands of travelers by compromising his ability to rest, they were horrified. The venue called Megan and told her they wouldn't be referring her services to any future clients. Megan blamed me for this, of course. She sent me a rage-filled text message calling me a saboteur and saying I was destroying her livelihood. I didn't respond. I just screenshot everything and sent it to Sandra. My parents have gone silent, which is somehow worse than the screaming. The demand letter was delivered. I assume they're consulting with their own attorney about how to respond. I'll update again when there's news. Update 3, 6 weeks later. The lawsuit is moving forward. My parents didn't respond to the demand letter within the 30-day window. Sandra filed the civil complaint last week. They've been formally served. From what I understand through mutual family friends, I'm not in direct contact with my parents anymore. They're devastated by this betrayal. They apparently expected me to back down once I'd made my point. They thought the demand letter was a bluff, just like Megan thought my threat to change the locks was a bluff. They underestimated the robot. But here's where things get legally complicated, and potentially much worse for my sister. Remember when I filed that police report about the unauthorized entry? I thought it was just documentation for the civil case. But apparently the detective who reviewed my file found it interesting enough to pursue independently. Last week, Megan was formally charged with criminal trespassing. This wasn't my doing. I hadn't pushed for criminal charges. But the detective explained that in cases where the victim has documented evidence of unauthorized entry, occupation of another person's residence, and refusal to leave when asked, the state can choose to prosecute regardless of the victim's wishes. Megan is facing a misdemeanor charge that could result in up to 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. More significantly for her career, it means she'll have a criminal record if convicted. My parents are apparently beside themselves. My mother called me for the first time in weeks, but it wasn't to apologize. It was to beg me to make this go away. You have to drop the charges, Marcus. You have to tell them you made a mistake. This will ruin her life. I told her I didn't file the charges and couldn't drop them. But you started this. If you hadn't been so difficult, none of this would have happened. I hung up. In work news, something incredible happened. My facility had an opening for a senior air traffic controller position. It's a supervisory role that involves training new controllers, handling the most complex operations, and serving as the point person during emergencies. The pay bump is substantial, but more importantly, it's recognition that I'm good at what I do. I applied, went through the interview process, and last Tuesday, I was informed that I got the job. I'm being promoted. While my family tries to convince the world that I'm a heartless robot who destroys everything he touches, my professional colleagues recognize my skill, my dedication, and my ability to perform under pressure. The irony isn't lost on me. Final update. 3 months after original post. This will be my last update. The major events have concluded, and I finally feel like I can close this chapter of my life. First, the legal resolutions. Megan took a plea deal on the criminal trespassing charge. She pleaded guilty to a reduced charge and was sentenced to 50 hours of community service plus court-ordered therapy. No jail time, but she does have a criminal record now. That criminal record has had consequences. Wedding venues have background check policies. When brides and grooms are choosing vendors to work with on the most important day of their lives, they want people they can trust with access to their homes, churches, and reception halls. A florist with a trespassing conviction raised red flags. Megan lost 3 of her biggest venue partnerships within a month of the conviction becoming public. Her business didn't die overnight, but it's been severely diminished. She's gone from doing 15 to 20 weddings per month to maybe 5 or 6. She had to let go of her assistant. She's struggling. I wish I could say I feel nothing about this, but that would be a lie. There's a hollow satisfaction mixed with genuine sadness. This is my sister. We grew up together. And now her life is significantly harder because of choices she made, choices our parents enabled and encouraged. Speaking of our parents, the civil lawsuit was settled out of court. Sandra negotiated aggressively, and when it became clear that my parents had no legal defense for what they'd done, they agreed to settle. The final amount, $72,000. They paid every dollar I asked for. But here's the thing about $72,000. For a retired high school teacher and a middle manager at a regional insurance company, that's not pocket change. My parents had to liquidate a significant portion of their retirement savings to pay the settlement. My father, from what I've heard, has had to go back to work part-time. My mother has talked about selling their house and downsizing. They're not destitute, but they're no longer comfortable. I donated half the settlement to a charity that provides financial assistance to families of aviation accident victims. It felt right. The other half went into my savings. Now for the unexpected part of this update, the part one never saw coming. 2 weeks ago, I received a letter from Megan. Not a text, not an email. A handwritten letter, sent to my P.O. box. She still doesn't have my new address, and I intend to keep it that way. Here's what it said, edited slightly for privacy. Dear Marcus, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to forgive me. But my therapist says I need to take accountability for my actions, and she's right. I've spent 12 weeks in court-ordered therapy examining how I became someone who felt entitled to steal from her own brother. Because that's what I did. I stole your space, your peace, your sense of safety. And when you tried to take it back, I acted like you were the villain. My therapist helped me see something I'd never understood before. Mom and Dad's favoritism wasn't a gift to me. It was a poison. They taught me that I was special just for existing, that my needs mattered more than other people's boundaries, that anyone who said no to me was being cruel. They turned me into someone who genuinely believed that what I wanted was more important than what you needed. You needed to sleep. You needed your home. You needed respect. And I couldn't see any of that because I'd been trained my whole life to see myself as the main character in everyone's story. I know now that your job isn't sitting in a darkroom watching dots. You keep people alive. 30,000 passengers on a busy day, you said? I looked it up. Air traffic control is one of the most stressful jobs in the world. And you do it while your family tells you it's nothing. I'm sorry for what I called you. You're not a robot. You're a person who learned to control his emotions because nobody in our family ever valued them. You're a person who found a career where precision and calm are strengths, not flaws. You're better than all of us, and we resented you for it. I'm not asking for a relationship. I don't deserve one. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I did to you, and I'm sorry. Megan. I read that letter 4 times. Then I put it away and didn't look at it again for a week. When I finally responded, I kept it brief. Megan. I received your letter. I appreciate the accountability. I hope your therapy continues to be helpful. I'm not ready to have a relationship with you. I may never be. But I don't wish you harm. I hope you rebuild your business and your life into something you can be proud of. Be well. Marcus. I don't know if she'll write back. I don't know if I want her to. As for my parents, I haven't heard from them since the settlement was finalized. I assume they hate me. I've accepted that. Here's what I've learned from all of this. Family is not a free pass. Sharing DNA with someone doesn't mean they get to violate your boundaries, dismiss your needs, or treat you like a secondary character in your own life. Being called cold or robotic because you have boundaries is manipulation. The people who call you those things are trying to make you feel broken so you'll tolerate their behavior. Your work matters, even if the people closest to you refuse to see it. I helped save a life during that overnight shift when everything fell apart at home. The passenger on that medical emergency flight is alive because I did my job. No one in my family ever asked about that story. But I know it happened. And finally, sometimes the right thing and the hard thing are the same thing. Filing that police report was hard. Hiring a lawyer was hard. Watching my parents' finances crumble was hard. But they made choices, and choices have consequences. I'm not the robot anymore. I'm not the cold, unfeeling failure my parents decided I was. I'm a senior air traffic controller at one of the busiest airports in the country. I'm good at my job. I have colleagues who respect me. I have friends who actually like spending time with me. And for the first time in my life, I don't need my parents to see my worth for me to believe in it. Thank you to everyone who followed this story. Thank you to everyone who sent messages of support. Thank you to the person who first told me to call a lawyer. You may have changed my life. Clear skies to all of you. Over and out. Edit. A lot of people are asking about my new role. Yes, I started as senior controller last month. It's everything I hoped it would be. I'm training 3 new controllers right now, and they're all doing great. One of them told me I'm the least robotic instructor she's ever had because I actually explained the why behind procedures instead of just the what. I think that might be the best compliment I've ever received.